Hi everyone, Steve Crosby here. Welcome to this issue of Monday Morning Musings. On this one, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how the ancient church understood baptism. Can be all kinds of arguments and debates about the significance of baptize, how we baptize, do we baptize, don't we baptize, infants, non-infants, water, immersion, are you saved by baptism, and all those things are basically left over for the 16th century. I just want to talk to you about how the ancient church understood the implications of baptism that we normally don't touch on. The most Protestant baptisms that I've been to will say, well, this is about being buried with him in death and raised again in newness of life. That's cool. That's great. Fine. But the ancient church, particularly the Eastern church, had a much more robust understanding of what that being raised to a new life meant. And there were a couple of features that we normally don't hear about in Protestant baptisms. I'd like to mention two of them. The first is they understood that being raised to newness of life meant struggle. That there was a fundamental conflict of worldview and a conflict of existence between your life pre-Jesus and post-Jesus. That for the believer, it's basic that your life is going to be characterized by difficulty. But that doesn't sell in televangelism. That doesn't sell in Protestantism, popular level Protestantism. Give your heart to Jesus and he's going to bless you. He's going to make you rich. He's going to give you prosperity. All your relatives are going to get healed. Your bank account's going to get fixed. It's going to be good for you. Easy. Because after all, finished work. Jesus has done it all. There's nothing you have to do. You just have to believe and all good things happen for you. And then when those people have heard those things, come into a crisis, one of two things happens. The cognitive dissonance either makes them go insane, they double down and say, it must be because I don't have enough faith, or sometimes they give up on the faith because what that preacher or televangelist sold them in the beginning hasn't delivered, and they go into crisis. And I deal with these people whose lives have been ruined by this stuff. It's because the fundamental understanding at the beginning of their walk did not include you are signing up for war. Now, I'm not talking about hyper-charismatic spiritual warfare calisthenics, but I'm talking about a life that is adversarial. Behold, I have come to bring a sword into the earth. Relatives are going to be brought into conflict with one another. It's not because the Prince of Peace is neurotic and he has two different messages, but the presentation of his message and mandate from the Father forces people to action one way or the other, and people don't like that. Another little nugget regarding the idea of the Christian experience being one of adversity, the military analogy of a Roman soldier was just in the background of how the ancients viewed baptism. And even the word that worked its way into the church, the sacrament of this and the sacrament of baptism. That word sacrament comes from the sacramentum. And the sacramentum was the oath of fidelity and loyalty and commitment to the emperor that somebody who became a Roman soldier, which by the way was a 25-year commitment, who was saying, my life is no longer my own. It's yours, Caesar. Well, the church took that in a good way for a change, adapted it to the Christian life, and understood that in baptism, you were taking the sacramental oath. You were signing up as a soldier. And the last thing the ancient church understood in this regard is that after baptism, you were sent out as a soldier, not to be aggressive and pro-violence and all that stuff, but your disposition, your posture in the universe was to be one of militancy and to understand opposition. That is so different than your normal mainstream evangelical baptism, hallelujah party baptism, that some of these other attributes of baptism have been lost. How much better to prepare somebody from the beginning. Prepare someone, make sure they understand, so that when adversity comes, they're not thrown for a loop. And in type, even the story of the journey of the children of Israel. So they crossed the Jordan River. Hey, great. Well, inheritance. But what's the first thing that happens in the story? They're led into conflict with the nations that are already there. And the crossing of the Red Sea and the crossing of the Jordan can be types of baptism. I don't want to get lost in the typology. Either one of them, it's difficulty. Cross the Red Sea, 40 years of difficulty. Cross the Jordan, conflict with the nations. What's the point? You go through water, you experience adversity. So let's equip our candidates with the right mindset without freaking them out and scaring them away. And we'll have a lot fewer instant backsliders and a lot fewer people who go through deep and troubling crises later in life when difficult and challenging things come their way. I'll see you next time.